Welcome to His Stories, and today I have with me Patty Bowman Kingsley. And Patty's been a friend online for quite a long time, and she and I are going to talk about her story today. Hi, Patty.
Hey, good to see you, Bill. Good to
Yeah,
hear you.
yeah. See, here these days, you never know for sure,
It's
right?
true.
um, Today, Patty is going to tell us about her story with her art, her faith, and also just about if we have time, we'll talk a little bit about an organization that she's excited about too. So,
Brilliant.
Patty, what's your background and what's your story in terms of your Christian experience?
Sure. Thanks so much, Bill. Good to be
Yeah,
here
yeah.
and to have the privilege of these conversations with you and your audience. Yeah, my background, I grew up in the church. I was kind of
Ah,
born and bred
okay.
in a pew. And I
Hmm.
would say, I remember the first time, it's very different from many people, right? Because a lot of people are in the church, they leave the church, they come back to the church. I never left. However, the understanding of who God was for me
Mm-hmm.
transformed over the years. And
Mm.
again, we think people who've been in the church are somehow, sometimes there's a pride or an arrogance with people who've been in the church because they haven't had the experiences others have had.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it's always been about the heart. And
Mm.
my heart is no different than anyone else's. So God was after
Cool.
me inside the church experience.
So from a very young age, then you
Yeah, so
basically being involved with the church.
yeah, so I remember going to the altar somewhere around 4 years old.
Oh
There
my
was some sort
goodness.
of call for
Really young
faith.
age. Okay.
Yeah, and I went forward and adults kept coming and telling me how to pray. And so I'm like, oh, they're so well-meaning. I know they love me, but they need to leave me alone because I need to talk to him. And
Right.
I knew how to talk to him already, obviously, but this was
Uh-huh.
some different level of experience where I wanted to go forward in my
Mm.
church and commit my life to Christ.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so it took
Wow.
about 3 weeks because people kept coming to me every time. Then
Uh,
finally they left me alone. And then
and
I was okay. It was like,
y-
I don't have to go again because I've now had the conversation with him myself.
intimately, right, right. Oh, how exciting. So from that young age, then you grew up basically in the church and in your faith, from that point on, basically.
Yes, yes. And I would
Mm-hmm.
say I had another amazing experience at 7. I remember,
Mm-hmm.
again, an altar experience. I was at some sort of camp and I
Mm-hmm.
went forward to again renew my commitment to the Lord. And then the next night I had an incredible, or sorry, actually, I guess it was the first night I went forward, had an incredible encounter with God and Holy Spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next night, my mom's going, I went back to tell my mom who was staying in our trailer. And
Mm-hmm.
she's like, oh, honey, like that's nice. Yeah. But she said years later, she goes, I knew you'd had something because the next night you came home sobbing because you
Mm-hmm.
couldn't replicate it.
Mm-hmm.
And you had gone, like you're going, something happened. God wasn't there the same way. So the point was, God was there, obviously.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He's always here. The challenge
Mm-hmm.
was, what are we seeking? How do we find him? And at seven
Mm-hmm.
years old, that was my experience, trying to find the mystery of who he
Mm.
was.
Oh, wow. What a story. That's exciting. So then, as you grew in the Lord and grew in stature, where did the art all come from then, and how
Yeah,
it
well,
got integrated with your Christian experience?
it did, because I'm one of those rare birds that does live creating, not rare birds in your area of the world, but in
Hmm.
other parts of the world,
Right.
it's quite unusual or unique to see people creating
Hmm.
visuality
Hmm.
inside of church settings or community settings. So I would say this, so at 7, I walked with the Lord until about 10, 9 or
Hmm.
10, and then I became the most deplorable version of myself, actually, which
Hmm.
seems again odd to have a kid say that. But I knew
Hmm.
I was not following the Lord. And
Hmm.
my mouth was wretched. Worse,
Hmm.
it's the worst potty mouth I ever had in my whole life from the ages of 10 to 13 or
Hmm.
11 to 13. And then going into high school, I remember I knew I had to make a very distinct decision if I was going to walk with the Lord. And I was an athlete, actually more than an artist. I was known for winning
Really?
competitions.
What
Yeah.
What kind of sports?
Oh, long distance running champion,
Ah,
basketball, volleyball. Yeah, I just was
you name
always
it,
on
huh?
the team. High jumping. Yeah, it was
Ah,
always there were, I couldn't get enough, a super high energy kid,
mm.
and I love sports, so I would try everything. I was never good at field hockey. It was like that's a brutal, oh my
We'll
God,
we'll
never,
avoid that
never.
conversation there. Just kidding. Patty's from Canada, and so everybody knows that story from the Olympics. But that was a fun game to watch for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, oh my goodness, yes, I love the fact that we get to talk about the arts which connects across nations
Right,
and people groups. And it's not a common connection, it's actually uncommon, but it
right.
transcends all barriers
Hmm.
in the language it carries for each of us in our hearts.
Hmm. So, then as you grew older and did you get training in art or you just self-taught or how did that work out
Yeah,
for
so
you?
my parents, they bought a Christian bookstore. And
Ah,
they, so I would call it, let me call it this. I don't like to use Christian as an adjective as much as it was a Bible bookstore,
there
which
you
meant
go.
I managed, if you like, the music department. I was 13 when I started working for them. So good thing
Ah,
I reconciled to the Lord because every day after school I'd walk down and run my parents' bookstore from 4 to 6 p.m. and every Friday night and Saturday same. So then, and I do
hmm,
all my sports stuff in the mornings and whatnot as well, like super early and continued with all that. But what happened for me was my passion was in the Bible section and in the worship and music.
mm,
So I've now lived long enough so that I've met the people whose names are on the music that's been written and had
uh-huh.
the privilege of that and going, oh my goodness, you had me at 13, 14, 15 years old. I was listening to what you were creating. And, now they're just, and they're only, a decade older than I am, or maybe
Yeah,
15, 20 years. But
yeah.
I was schooled. Before soaking was a thing, I would stack 5 albums on my parents' turntable and lay down at night and just lay there and have the music wash over me. Um,
Ah,
right. So
wow.
that was in my immersion, if you like, into who God was for me and how I fed my
Mm,
spirit and my
mm,
humanity.
mm.
Mhm. And then the Bibles. Oh my goodness. It was like that's when the NIV came out. I was 16 years old when the NIV first
Oh yeah,
translation came
okay.
out of the New International Version.
Sure.
And I remember I bought my first Bible. It was $32 for leather bound seconds of the NIV.
There you
Tidbit.
go.
But I held on to that Bible. My parents bought me my first New American Standard leather. And again, it wasn't the books, the general
Hmm.
books or bios on people,
Hmm.
the biographies and whatnot, or the stories I read. It was actually it was the research books, the reference manuals, the
Yeah.
technical Bibles, the
Hmm.
concordances, because we didn't have everything online. So every time you wanted to look
Right.
for a word, you had to look through a tome
Oh, I
to
remember in
find a word,
college doing that in
right?
Bible studies. My goodness, you'd have 3 or 4 books in front of you trying to do Bible study, and you had to
Exactly.
physically look it up. These days, oh my gosh, it's like unbelievable, actually.
Well, it is, and now the research challenge is verifying or actual original research and the ethical and I guess the tr how true the research is to original language and whatnot, which we have greater depth in now,
Right.
and now we also the research is a little different. But that was where I cut my teeth, and my parents offered me that bookstore. But strangely enough, I had just opened a company at
Ah,
16. So I started my
hmm.
first company when I was 16 years old, and it was
Oh
an
my goodness.
arts-based company.
Hmm.
Isn't that wild?
That is amazing. I have some relatives who had that same kind of experience, but it's unusual. It takes a very talented person, a very persistent person, a resilient person, I guess, to be able to do that at that age for sure.
Well, it was unusual. I didn't realize it was unusual until I'm
Hmm.
sitting in front of a woman trying to. I borrowed my mother's car and I drove. I live outside of Toronto, Ontario, Canada, so I
Okay.
drove downtown I
Hmm.
still remember 393 University Avenue. Again, these tidbits of trivia. And that's where you had to go to start a company in my
Ah,
area. Now you can do everything online, and I encourage
no,
people to
right,
do it all the
right.
time.
Oh my
Right. But I
goodness.
remember drive down there, and the woman's looking at me going, "Why do you need a vendor's pass?" I said, "So I can sell my artwork." And she said, "Well, who are your
Oh,
clients?" I said, "Well, how can I have clients if I haven't framed my artwork? I have to be able to buy wholesale and sell retail, and I need to be able to, have the equipment to be able to produce I want to be a professional picture framer." So,
ah,
I mean, that was just to go along with the artwork. That was the context of it. And
mm,
so they finally gave it to me. I drove home. I went, great, I have a company. I didn't know. In
hmm.
Ontario, you can't start a company below the age of 16, a proprietorship. You can start a corporation, but not a
Oh, is
proprietorship.
that right? Okay.
Isn't that wild? So I didn't even think
Interesting.
that. But I just thought my dad worked as a consultant, and I
Hmm.
just thought, I just thought that's what someone did.
You didn't know any different.
I didn't know any different. I just, there's been different limits in my faith on, how, or glass ceilings, if you like, but dreaming about what one can become. I would
Hmm.
wrestle with my dad, say about women in ministry and functioning in the
Yeah.
fullness of the authority God's given them and the calling and assignment. We'd wrestle about that, given my age and his age at the time.
Hmm.
Um, but we'd say the sky's the limit. No, sky's not the limit. The astronauts proved the sky's not the limit. There's no limit that we know of,
Mm, mm,
right? So why do we talk in limits?
hmm, hmm.
And as an artist, I just didn't realize, actually, I didn't realize until I was sitting in front of a doctor getting assessed for adult learning challenges at 59, 60 years old. As I went back to uni to finish the training we talked about, you touched on earlier.
Hmm.
And they're going, you have no ability to see limits. I said, that's a
Mm.
disability? I
That
thought that was my ability. That's my
your ability,
superpower.
your strength, your greatest strength.
Now,
Exactly.
understanding that when you're in
Right.
a room, what you do to a room when you don't see limits,
Hmm. Hmm.
that
Wow.
that can be very, very difficult for people.
Sure, sure. Hmm. That's fascinating. So, what aspect of art then did you develop into? The music side or the drawing, or how did that evolve over time for you?
Interestingly enough, yeah, I didn't realize I was reflecting on this recently.
Okay.
It's in 2022 because I was in the Bahamas doing a decolonization
Mm.
uh, experience in the Bahamas and decolonization of art in particular from
Hmm.
Turtle Island to the islands of the Bahamas, which is
Okay.
actually part of Turtle Island, but nevertheless. So we go, I'm in this program and I recognized in the Bahamas that people really revere their moms. So there's an
Hmm.
incredible honor toward moms.
Mm.
And I kept thinking, oh, so why is there dishonor in my heart towards my mom?
Mm.
And honor towards my dad because I had a greater affinity with him,
Hmm.
right? And then I
Hmm.
had to reflect back on my major life decisions. It was my mom who ran the Bible bookstore that influenced.
Oh, okay.
It was my mom who said to me when I was going into high school, you can do your sports, but Patty, the body doesn't always last. So you need to choose art or music, one of the two, but you must get equipped in either
Mm.
art or music in the
Mm.
sense of your formal education. And I went,
Hmm.
okay, I don't agree, but I'll choose art. And I was already trained in some music and had won a couple of things in music. I went on to lead worship teams and do that as my hobby, if you like.
Mm.
Um, and sometimes as employment, but my focus became on visual art then.
Okay. Hmm.
And so it continued.
Well, I can empathize completely with you because my mom also kind of gently pushed me into the music world. And it, there's not a bitterness there, but it's like um, you feel looking back like you didn't get to necessarily make the choice, you know. But
Well, yeah.
they 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 did let me have that freedom, but there was definitely some gentle pushing in that direction for similar reasons that your parents were trying to look out for you, you know.
Yeah, I
And
mean, it's the illusion of choice, right? Either or. And those
sure.
were my strengths.
Hmm.
Athletics.
Right.
art and music.
Mm.
So, I mean, I would expect that my mom would have likely picked music for me.
Hmm.
But the art, the visual ability to do visual art was so strong as well that
Right.
she really did. I say my mom, it was my parents, but my mom really was the one who led that framework
Mm.
for me.
Okay.
And I was the one who chose. So then it just became high school art. And when it came time for uni, so remember now, I really love the Lord with all my heart.
Hmm.
I'm, I would say he parented me more, as much as I mentioned my parents as having strong influences.
Hmm.
It was God who really parented me from his word. I just thought at
Mm.
16, I started reading the Bible cover to cover.
Sure.
I just thought that's what people did.
Mm.
I didn't realize that a lot of people don't read the Bible.
Well,
They
with the new NIV coming out, it probably was very readable to you then in those days.
It's true. You know what?
Yeah.
That's actually, in fact, that was the Bible I started reading. You're right, Bill. That's the
Yeah.
influence. There we go. NIV.
Hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, Zondervan Publications, because you're right. That's what I kept that Bible read from one end to the other to start again. There was no timeline. I would just read every day,
Hmm.
study, read every day, read every day, read every day. Probably didn't stop doing that practice, like adjust that practice at all
Mm.
until I was in my 30s.
Oh, wow. What a great habit.
So, 20 years of reading from cover to cover every day. I would
Hmm.
study out certain things, but it
Hmm.
was a very, I didn't cherry pick.
Mm.
I just read cover to cover. That doesn't mean I didn't study particular things,
Sure.
but that would be on top of just reading my reading routine.
Well, speaking of books, I hear that somebody is writing a book these days.
Uh, Yeah, someone's writing a visual culture book, meaning,
Mm.
yeah, I am creating a book at this moment in time. It's so close,
Mm.
called Beauty Through Ashes,
Oh,
and
wow.
it has emerged from a show calendar
Hmm.
from my thesis work as I finished. It took me 41 years to finish a an honors Bachelor of Fine Arts at the Ontario
Wow.
College, yeah,
Patty.
Ontario College of Art and Design University.
Wow. So
So
you
for
do
me,
have a
when
lot of training then.
yeah, so well, I mean, it's funny because I went back, I applied three different times, three or four different times in my lifetime. Thank God they kept accepting me. Because OCAD does reject people, but for some
Right.
reason they kept accepting me. And so I would mile out. It's like you can be 6 years, then you have to apply again. Okay, I'll apply again because I wanted to finish. And people would say to me, well, why are you here? Are you not making money? My professor would say, no, no, I'm making money. Well, why are you here? To learn. I love learning.
Yes,
I love learning.
exactly. I
And
hear
I
you
wanted,
totally.
and I love finishing, right?
Right.
And oftentimes as artists, let me just not speak for everyone. For myself as an artist, I
Hmm.
remember my dad saying to me, you start all these things, but you don't finish.
Mm.
So adulting for me became about finishing,
Mm.
right?
What
And just, right.
what wisdom from your dad. That's awesome.
Right. And so he would, I mean, I mean, my dad, I had his power tools. I could do, it's so funny. I stayed at someone's house. I was sitting one time and I left my keys outside and I had to break a window to get in. So by the time they came home, I had the glass cut and I was puttying the window into place. And they're going, you understand how to putty a window? I go, well, it's not really a big deal. My dad showed me, right? You break the window, you fix the
Wow.
window. And they're going, oh my goodness, like Patty, most people don't do that. They hire someone. Well, oh no,
Well,
no, you
such
do
great
it.
skills he gave you, huh?
Right. So yes, I mean the breadth of when I say here I am in a Bible bookstore, but I can run my dad's, table saw and
Right.
and a company and still finish my schooling. It's just the breadth of that. We
Hmm.
just didn't really have off buttons in our family.
Mm.
And
Mm.
we really, workaholism would be the weakness, but the joy of work is the
Mm.
drive.
So tell me a little bit about your book that you're writing then.
Yeah.
You shared the title with us, but um, what is it about and how did you get pushed into this direction?
Sure. As you can tell from what we've talked about, I'm
Hmm.
detail and data driven. I love
Mm.
information. I
Mm.
served, my parents offered me this company at 16. I started my own. I go to college. I start what
Sure.
was then a college, not a uni, at 19. End up
Mm,
not continuing. I become a custom framer, a very good custom framer in Ontario. I first option to buy that company. Then I decline that. I run for public office. I spend 12 years serving 4 elections as a school board trustee and chairperson of the 10th largest school board in Canada.
hmm
I continue my arts practice with award-winning exhibit design display art. So all of these seasons, I mention all these things because they're all seasons. So what happened for me is that when I'm at 58, 59, I'm going, wow, you know what? I need to consolidate. And it's not like debt consolidation for me. It's files and data consolidation because I have a shorter runway than I have an on-ramp. And I
mm,
need to know what I'm supposed to know, do, and be like for this last season of life,
hmm
which I'm not going anywhere. But the point is, if we don't know the season we're in, we're going to miss. I love Bill Johnson's quote that, when you're faced with the opportunity of a lifetime, you have to function within the lifetime of the opportunity,
mm, hmm
right? And if we recognize that we're in an opportunity season, history was history. But the mystery of what we're doing is where we're at now, right now, activating everything that's been deposited in us, and then moving forward with that emphasis as we reach into this next season of life. So, in reflecting on all those seasons, I went, I need to reduce the physical capacity of all of this data, and I can either recycle it all and objects and whatnot that went with it, or I can burn them.
mm.
So, I decided to reduce them to ash. Now, some of that I have not reduced. I have 2 daughters. I've not reduced that to ash. But
Of
I was
course.
married. Yes, I was married. I am
Mm,
divorced. And I
mm,
went through a long season of domestic abuse and recovery.
mm.
So
Oh,
that also carries with it both the blessings of the
hmm
season and the
Yeah,
challenges of it.
yeah,
And if you have listeners who have lived through that, then they might be going, "Where's the blessing?" Well, there's blessing in there. But
yeah.
sometimes you have to dig and you have to mine. And when I start reflecting on things the Lord had said to me, out of Isaiah, like, "What can you? I've given you bouquets of roses instead of," and that's a Message Bible translation, and
hmm
or a Message translation. I'm not sure they call it the Message Bible anymore, but the Message
Yeah,
translation.
right.
And and I'm going, oh God, you have done that for me. So how do I put that into a two-dimensional or three-dimensional form to attempt to communicate that to people who are in those life-limiting circumstances right
Mm.
now? And how
Ah,
can we put pain in its place for 5 seconds, 5 minutes, 5 hours, 5 days, 5 months? What does it take for us to find life in the journey, beauty
mm,
through ashes? Let's
yeah.
not wait, right? Let's not wait till the end. It's not just beauty too. Oh, I was in beauty, then I went to it. No, beauty is found in the ash heap, right?
So basically, you're reflecting on what God taught you through that whole character development process
Yeah,
in your
and
book, it sounds like.
yeah, so what it is as an artist, when you take and you take these concepts and you put them
Hmm.
into two-dimensional, three-dimensional forms, people see them. And
hmm
I remember one of the first ones I sold was called Domestic. It was called Domestic because I didn't want to call it abuse because no one's going to buy abuse. But
Right.
someone bought something called Domestic, which was domestic ash, which was my domestic
Oh
legal
my
files,
goodness. Okay.
and reduced to beautiful dove gray ash and put on a substrate um,
hmm
with a gold leaf, 18 karat gold leaf
Oh my
edge.
goodness.
And you're going, man, this is so beautiful because you can seal the learning. There's so
hmm
many metaphoric connections
Right.
as
Right.
visual artists, as any form of art would give us, that allows people to see something and read it as finished, as beautiful, as part of your story, as part of
hmm
his story in us, and literally part of history. But we don't have
Wow.
to run from it because when we can face it and embrace it, we
hmm
go, okay, now it doesn't control me. Now I'm actually fueled by my history, not
Right.
undone by it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you can talk about anything, like you're vulnerable. And
Yeah.
Bill, I go back my whole life really to get to this point and be able to say, I go back to the garden and say the goal was a habitational proximal relationship with the Creator, that I
Mm,
would be naked and not ashamed.
mhm,
In that, and I mean my soul could be naked
mm,
and I could communicate with him and I would feel no shame.
mhm.
And when we have that, then we have no shame anywhere. Then we
Right,
have freedom and we
right.
have a story someone else has experienced or a loss someone else has experienced. Like, how do we live through loss? So even though the narrative may be different, and I don't mean narrative to diminish the
Mhm,
impact of what we've gone through, but I am not domestic abuse. And
mhm,
people who've experienced other losses, I am not death. I am not. I am Patty Bowman Kingsley, child of
mhm.
the King,
Yep,
creative, creator. This is what I believe. Other people believe differently, but here's how you access, here's how you can enter in to what I have come to know, do, and be before him with transparency and
right.
freedom.
So
Not
through the ash, then that brought beauty to your life and developed your character, and you grew into the kind of person that the Lord had in mind for you through that whole
yes,
process, it sounds like.
yeah, I would say the sovereign hand of God, because that's one part of my story. There's other pieces,
Sure.
and which is true for everyone, right?
Right.
And there's other pieces even now that are feeding into. I'm going, oh, the next iteration may include the challenge of this or the challenge of
Mm-hmm.
this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going, oh, I never envisioned that. Oh, okay, God.
Mm-hmm.
But when we know, when you walk through challenges, it's not who we are, it's whose we are.